I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network, and this is a breaking news alert, and this is a great update as well. The pillow guy, Mike Lindell, the fascist pillow guy who was at the White House around the insurrection, after the insurrection, was kind of one of Trump's right-hand people who was spreading the big lie and trying to undermine our democratic processes. Remember, he was walking out of the White House with pieces of paper that said declare martial law and appoint Kash Patel as the acting CIA director. Kash Patel wanted to overthrow our democracy as well. Well, if you've been following the MeidasTouch network, we've been covering that Mike Lindell, after a search warrant was executed at him as he was leaving a Hardee's, he filed basically a similar type of motion that Donald Trump did. He sued the Department of Justice and said that he wanted to get his phone back, and he made all of these ridiculous conspiracy theories about the Department of Justice coercing him and stealing his phone. It looked like a Trump motion, and as I said, one of the issues with Judge Eileen Cannon's horrible and ridiculous order is that it made people like Mike Lindell think that you can just engage in crimes and get away with it. That was one of the reasons why Judge Eileen Cannon's order was so dangerous. Well, as I mentioned, Mike Lindell filed that motion like Trump's motion. He filed another motion yesterday, a temporary, he sought an injunction to get his documents back and to basically do what Trump wanted to do. And literally less than a day later, the district court has already denied Mike Lindell's motion for the temporary restraining order to reclaim his phone. The judge, by the way, who is a Trump appointee, get this, cited the Donald Trump versus United States decision from the 11th Circuit yesterday, standing for the proposition that when you apply these factors, adjudicating a motion for partial stay by the district court, the bad guy, the criminal, doesn't get his stuff back. And so one of the things that Donald Trump did already was establish Court of Appeals precedent that will further restrict criminals from doing exactly what Donald Trump did, which is actually being utilized in real time to summarily and very quickly dismiss these clownish MAGA idiot lawsuits like Mike Lindell's. And so literally this order came out moments ago. It's Judge Eric C. Tostrud, a Donald Trump appointee, citing the 11th Circuit opinion from yesterday, using case law that was just made against Trump yesterday, and basically saying Mike Lindell and the MyPillow Inc. have filed a complaint to the return of property and declaratory relief. To summarize very generally, plaintiffs allege in their complaint that the DOJ applied for and obtained and executed a search warrant on Mr. Lindell, resulting in the seizure of his cellular phone, which also belonged to MyPillow Inc. Plaintiffs allege that the warrant and the defendant's actions in obtaining it violated his civil rights. The day after they filed the complaint, Lindell and MyPillow filed for a motion for a temporary restraining order. They talk about how a temporary restraining order is an extraordinary remedy. Plaintiff's request for a temporary restraining order directs the Department of Justice to refrain from accessing the phone. And then it goes and basically says, really based on this precedent, that there's an active criminal investigation, a pre-indictment motion seeking the return of seized property, which the Eighth Circuit has said is more properly considered a suit in equity rather than one under the rules of criminal procedure, turns on the considerations of several factors. And then they go and they analyze those Trump factors, right? Which in the Fifth Circuit was called the Ritchie test, which is used in the 11th Circuit, the Ritchie test. And there's a similar Ritchie style test here, which is callous disregard by the Department of Justice. That didn't happen. Whether there would be irreparable harm that would be caused to the person who is being investigated, in this case, Mike Lindell, and here there wouldn't be irreparable harm. Are there any other remedies in law that they can do? Sure, you as a criminal defendant, if you're indicted, go file your Rule 41G motions then, but there's other remedies other than that. I'm sorry that you are a criminal and you're engaged in criminal conduct. That was one of my favorite parts of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals order, where they basically schooled Judge Eileen Cannon, and they said, if you analyze these factors and say that the individual who could have engaged in crimes, the person who's being investigated for criminal conduct, can claim that they will be irreparably harmed and want their stolen property, every criminal defendant or person being investigated for crimes will claim that they'll be harmed if the Department of Justice investigates them. But you can't give a free pass to the people being investigated. You don't understand the way criminals work and the way the Department of Justice works, the 11th Circuit basically said. But this is great news here. Mike Lindell's motion for him to return this, for the Department of Justice to return the cell phone and to stop using his cell phone, denied immediately. I'll tell you this, the federal courts are not joking around here right now, especially at the circuit court level. And that's why Judge Eileen Cannon's order and her conduct was so abysmal and so disturbing, because throughout all of Trump's criminality, at the very least, the federal courts have held and have been a protector of our constitutional order. And that is something that we should have all been proud about. Like, even when Trump filed all of those bogus and frivolous lawsuits claiming election fraud in 2020, like 70 of them, every single one of them got dismissed. There was one procedural one which had no impact at all that didn't get dismissed, but every one of the other cases literally got dismissed. And when they were asked, when Trump and these people representing him were saying, put up an affidavit, they would either lie on their affidavits, for which lawyers are now being disbarred or severely disciplined for their conduct, or they wouldn't put up the affidavits. They wouldn't put the facts. They're just big liars who go on their social media platforms, spread all of this info, whine when they're taking off social media platforms, create their own additional platforms so specifically they could spread election disinfo. But the courts were not having it, except Judge Eileen Cannon, who completely perverted and destroyed some of the most basic principles, which is that documents, top secret classified records, belong to the government, and people can't just steal documents and say mine. And generally, as that's applied, Judge Eileen Cannon's precedent that she would have set, and this is what the 11th Circuit said is so ridiculous, that you're just going to allow every criminal now, like the Mike Lindells of the world, to simply say, I've been harmed, I've been injured because I'm being investigated for engaging in heinous and despicable crimes or any crimes. That's how absurd your order is, Judge Eileen Cannon. And the 11th Circuit, made the right ruling, and now district courts are saying, other courts are looking at that and saying, yeah, the precedent, Judge Eileen Cannon's reputation, everything she's known for now, is being reversed and standing for the proposition that criminals shouldn't get away with it the way Judge Eileen Cannon tried to. Another big news for justice. This is great news for everybody. Hit the subscribe button right now. Let's get to 1 million subs right now. And in addition, if you want to support independent media like this, go to our new Patreon at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. I always get asked, I live wherever, how do I help grow this independent media network? By going to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. You can join one of the membership tiers with exclusive benefits, exclusive perks, but most importantly, it's a way for you to help grow this so we stay entirely independent. We don't take any outside investors. We're powered by democracy and fueled by you. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Until next time.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.